that just because you have kids doesn't mean that your life ends.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, some of the conversations that I've had since being pregnant, I've had it with women who've reminded me of that.
That's good.
And it's been amazing. And I'm like, okay, this is the kind of conversations I have, because these are the kind of like-mind thoughts that I'm having at the moment. Because they, like some other moms have made it seem like their entire lives have ended, and that they're no longer women, they're no longer wives, they're no longer partners to a husband. They've just become this factory that just brings babies.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that if sometimes your immediate surrounding or even your partner themselves make you feel that way, because it's not fair.
Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Badun Sukkar, where we discuss and question culture and social norms without sugarcoating or filters. Today I have a recurring guest, Tamara, because we want to discuss motherhood, if I'm being very specific and direct to the point. And Tamara is a soon mother-to-be, and it's her first time.
Yes, it is.
And she has a lot to say.
Hello, everybody. Apparently, my name is Farah for the day.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's good to be back. First time mom to be, 7 months pregnant.
How has it been?
It's been life-changing.
Yeah.
To say the least. I think there needs to be more of a disclosure sign / document being handed to you when you have a female counterpart, whether your mother or your aunts or whoever it is in your Arabic life that tells you need to have kids, that needs to give you a document that states what that entails, because the way it's being proclaimed and marketed is too understated than what is actually going on.
Every time a friend or colleague or whatever like gets pregnant and has a baby, I always ask them, like, how is it really? Like, because I feel what we see or what was portrayed is very different than the reality of it, and I really want to know their perspective of it, at least the honest one. So
from my experience so far, I'm literally going to be reflecting on my experience and based on the conversations that I've been having for the last 7 months, and the experience of being told to have babies and being pregnant from before. First of all, I think that just generally, I think maybe more so, and I've seen it in our culture, that the whole let's have go have babies or go get married and have babies is, I think, pushed too aggressively with little to no explanation as to what that actually looks like.
I don't think everyone should have kids.
100%. That's one thing I will totally agree on.
Yeah.
I think that it's a little bit unfair that you push something like that without really declaring the level of responsibility and commitment. And I don't want to say the word sacrifice because their sacrifices will maybe come along down the line, but at the end of the day, if you are someone who has wished to have kids, this is not really, in my own experience, I don't see this as a sacrifice. This is part of you growing a child, growing a human baby.
Yeah.
I think the undertone to having children needs to be further explained, to the gravity of responsibility that it entails, the level of maturity that you should actually have for you to be ready to have kids, and what that actually is going to look like for you potentially down the line, and how that's going to actually impact your life. I'm someone who likes to have knowledge as to what I'm going into before I commit to something. Obviously, you can't always opt for that option in every situation in life. I think life would be a little bit easier manageable if you had that in every situation. But I do believe that in the case of you choosing to have kids or being pressured into having children, I think that a lot of times we look to the elderly who do pressure us into doing these decisions to educate you on these things. But if you don't grow up in an environment where they even address their own emotions, don't expect them to give you a one-on-one on what pregnancy or childbearing or parenting looks like.
Yeah.
So I think in so many ways, you'll have to look to yourself to get educated about that or have conversations with other individuals who have already been through it. With the pregnancy itself, it's actually been quite eye-opening for me. I've had varying shades of conversations, all from the degrees of it's horribly difficult and terribly demanding and I hashtag indirectly regret it to it's the most beautiful thing you're ever going to have in your entire life. So I like to keep things a little bit realistic.
Yeah.
And I'm always open to listening to other people's experiences and their opinions of how they think their experiences went. And at the end of the day, like, I'm never going to stick to one. I'm going to make my own, my own assessment of what that looks like for me. I do think that, first of all, I've heard too many women speak too much about the fact that it's so beautiful or that it's like, it's the best thing that's going to happen. Okay, that's fantastic. And that was a lot of what was being pushed at the beginning. Like, that was a narrative.
Do you think they're not being honest?
No, I think they were just trying to give you the post-delivery experience that is so gratifying. It's so worth it. And you know what? A lot of times you are going to have moments that you're going to be so happy that you've made this decision, yet you're going to be horribly exhausted, but it's all worth it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, you know, as I speak further about this, I feel that you start to have that feeling eventually because there's a lot of changes that you go through during your pregnancy, specifically so like a lot of the, like, you know, you lose a lot of sleep already while you're being pregnant, that you're already losing that. Yeah. But you're like, you know, you feel like a little kick inside of you and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And you're gonna meet this human being very soon. Well, when things start to change for you at the beginning, depending on how your hormones are, you might be a woman who's pregnant, who's gonna have horrible nausea or horrible vomiting on the day-to-day, multiple times a day. Or you just might actually be just a casual woman who doesn't even look pregnant and doesn't even act like she's pregnant.
Like, yeah, the movies always show you someone throwing up and that's how they find out. And that's it. And she's glowing. That's it. And then there's a baby.
Yeah. It's like, ta-da!
That's all you see. And حتى in our cultures ما كتير بنحكى بالموضوع. I think my first reality check was my cousin's wife gave birth and we went to visit her. And you know, in Lebanese households, when you go, there's mughli. It's like the baby shower that happens after delivery. And I saw her and I thought I will see someone who's glowing and having the best time of their life.
No.
She was in so much... I was very young. I was like a tween or a teenager. So, you know,
started young.
Yeah, very young. That's how we start. بس المهم, the idea is شفتها in pain. تحاول to serve المغلي. And I was like, I didn't get it. I was like, why did she look so miserable? Isn't this the best thing that should happen to you? You know,
that's how it's marketed.
That's how it's marketed to us, you know, and especially that family is pretty traditional. So, and I was like, something
is not adding up.
Yeah. So this is why now I start asking people, like, really, how did it go? What's going on?
I think there's a lot. The experience of becoming a mother is very multifaceted. I think that's the only role that's extremely dug into on the level of discomfort. Yeah. I don't think there's any other role that you take on in life, whether you are a male or a female. Like, for example, as a person, as myself, my roles are daughter, sister, aunt, sister-in-law, wife, daughter-in-law, and no one digs into the level of personal questions as much as they do when you take on the title of becoming a mom. It's very, very like, what? If we're going to look into the normality of the context of what you actually ask a pregnant woman as to whether she is going to have a natural birth or a C-section birth, or whether she's going to be breastfeeding or she's going to be bottle feeding, just take a step back and think of what you're actually asking of her and what you're asking about. You know, when the whole statement of like, yeah, so my husband and I are trying, like, let's translate that into what actually that means.
I hate that.
You know what I mean?
I feel like I know, I hate it, haram, I get that, but it's weird.
I know, but the thing is that it's also become so normative in society that people don't bat an eye about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's almost like, no one's going to really put it out there what it actually is addressing. They've just made it so normal that it's like, so she's gonna exit this baby through this channel or that channel. That's putting it a little bit more rawly out there. There's so many changes that happens to you as a person, and there are the people who are within that experience around you who also get affected and impacted from whether your hormones are changing or your lifestyle changes, the version of you changes, the version of what they know about you changes. There's a lot of things that it's a very multi-person experience. And sometimes, a lot of times for a lot of women, it can also be very lonely. Yeah. I think that the more clarity you provide to an individual, especially if you are the one who's encouraging them to go on this experience, or you're the one who's supporting them on this experience, you should have a more transparent conversation about what that kind of experience looks like. I've had experiences where women have come up to me and told me that have either been at the same stage of pregnancy as myself. Yeah, I can't eat anything. I can't stand the smell of food anymore. And I also hate my husband. I'm like, that's actually really like, I'm sorry you feel that way, because I know that's not how you really feel. And no one told you that was maybe going to happen to you. And I felt the need to console her and just tell her that it's just your hormones, sweetie. Like, it just happens.
I don't think there's enough support for pregnant women.
No, the thing is that I feel like when you end up finding that, it's always better to do it amongst people that you actually know.
No.
At the same time, maybe sometimes it's even easier to go and do that with strangers because they will probably be a little bit less judgmental. The comment that I had made in the previous experiences that I shared, which actually stemmed this entire session, I was talking about specifically whether it is being addressed verbally to your face or not. There is a level of judgment that comes
definitely
out of how much of a mother you are. And that's what I was saying, that the experience is very multi-person, and it is also like everything in life. It does come with judgment, it does come with comparison, it does come with benchmarking, it comes with a lot of references, and it comes with just a normal human experience. But I feel that it's a little bit harsher when you are pregnant, and I think that it needs to be a little bit softer because of the fact that you are already going, as the changes you are enduring as a person are so new to you, especially when you're a new mom to be. You don't have any references to what kind of changes you're going to go through as a person. You have no idea how your body's going to look like and how it's going to look like after. And you have no idea what's going to happen to you when the day comes.
No.
So it's layered with a lot of scary unknowns, and it's very terrifying to some women. And I think that the level of invasiveness and judgment that can come with the conversations that you can have with people who are supposed to be either supporting you or just having casual conversations with you should honestly be toned down, quite frankly. Like, judge all you want, but you're judging someone who's going through an immense amount of changes. And she's not stable, from a hormonal level. Not in a deranged way, but
I know what you mean.
Her hormones are completely ramped up all the way. So it feels a little bit...
I don't think it helps.
Sorry?
It doesn't help
in any way. Contribute. But then if you think about it in any context of life, where does judgment really ever
I know,
contribute?
but this is worse even.
It is worse.
Sometimes judgment maybe can help you reframe something, understand something, reevaluate something. But in what way will this judgment ever, serve? Unless you're killing you're doing something really bad to yourself.
I wish I can say, we could put that as a question mark on every social situation in life. It's like, what is your judgment actually going to contribute to?
Unjudged.
But then life would be too easy.
I've been trying to practice like it was what I'm going to say going to help or going to make things worse. Sometimes I'm conscious about it.
I think about it this way. Before you even come and talk to me, are you coming to me because you want me to listen to you, or you're looking for me to share an opinion? Or what is it exactly? So I can just set my expectation. And then if you are looking for an opinion, then I'm going to make sure that it benefits you to your best in the most objective way possible without subjecting my own opinions and personal experiences onto you. That's just how I approach situations. Unfortunately, not everybody has that level of maturity. But I do believe that motherhood comes with a lot of judgment, and specifically afterwards. And the thing is, it comes from a lot of moms.
Yeah, I heard a lot about that. It
doesn't come from like your partner as much as you would feel it from other mothers.
Yeah. I don't know why. Do women feel...
But if you really think about the society of women, how much do you think is really... That's really
is it competitive?
How much of it is really riddled with judgment?
Yeah, it is. Female, unfortunately, when it's insecure female situation or feminine energy, it's usually eating at each other and taking away from each other.
That's why social media
same thing
targets women in a very interesting way than it does for men. I think that in pregnancy, the way that I've felt a lot of the conversations go, a lot of them have been, let's say, as equally supportive, but then as equally spiteful, almost like like a huge undertone of judgment
you'd be like,
about what your answers are. It's like the worst multi-question test you can ever do.
What was the worst
when you
question?
didn't even know that you were being tested.
Yeah. It's like, whoa.
And it's rather like if I tell them, for example, that I'm going to opt for this, when it's a question that they have asked you and you're answering them and they then judge you based on the answer that I'm like, but I'm sorry, who are you to be judging me at the end of the day? You may be a mother, but your journey went the way it did because of the choices that you made or because of the situations that you found yourself in, because of A, your body, or B, your baby, or C, your situation. There's a level of entitlement that I think women/moms take on when they become this role, because also of how much it's glorified and how much of a big deal it is to take that on when you are a woman. And thinking back to the days when that's predominantly what women did, you know, they bore children and they basically became mothers and they were just rearing children their entire lives. We're not in that stage of life anymore. A lot of women who are working mothers wear it as a badge that they are working moms and, you know, they get to raise children. I just find that it's a little bit unfair that even though we've come this far in terms of our development as society, not as just a women's society, but as a society, that we're still dealing with this level of nonsense, in my opinion. I think motherhood, to me so far, to be a mother has been a beautiful blessing. I believe that if this is what you truly wanted for yourself in your life, then you're going to see this as a gift that's been given to you, rather than you feeling that you're going to make your kids owe you their life.
Yeah. No, I grew up that way. So from my dad's perspective, and you know, from a child's perspective, I didn't ask you to bring me to life, to this life. I didn't ask to be here. So you telling me that you're providing me with the most fundamental and basic physical and what's the word? Financial needs only. Let's be honest as well about that. It's what you do. It's what you have to do. Don't make me pay for it. Yeah, so we have a lot of that. And I think the whole, back to what you were saying, and don't frame it in a sacrificial way, is the root of all of that, because you feel like you've done something for someone. I don't think they wanted kids.
Again, everyone has a different context to how that happens.
Akid, but no, I feel like that starting point, whether it's coming from whatever root it is, but if you're looking and framing a situation as a sacrifice, you'll continue feeling that way. It'll continue turning into that burden, let's say, instead of a blessing. It's the way we frame it.
The thing is that you wanted this. Like every situation that you've ever opted for.
I don't know if a lot of people want this for the right reasons. I think a lot of them want, but I don't know if they dig into why they want.
For me anyway, I'm lucky enough to have become a mom in my 30s. I feel like a lot of other women maybe didn't have that chance or didn't want to wait that long, and they got kids at a much different age. I think your age plays a huge role into what kind of mom you end up becoming, because there's your emotional maturity, your mental maturity, your life experiences. There's a lot of things that go into it, and that really determines how you become a parent, and then the kind of parenting that you actually end up bestowing on your kids. With this generation, specifically us in this day and age, I feel like we're also making such tremendous efforts trying to break like toxic
everything.
Patterns from the ones that we grew up in, for instance. And so I think that we're trying to become more conscious in terms of our parenting. I'm not saying we're trying to become the superhuman beings with no flaws. I think we're just more aware as to what it means to become a parent, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel for the previous generations where, obviously, as you've highlighted in many of our conversations before, it was very much driven by survival, and that it was part of a responsibility that whether you liked it or not, it was part of what you were going to be at the end of the day. I just feel that in this day and age, with the level of information that goes around, which by the way can be very helpful but also very confusing sometimes, because again, it's very much riddled in subjective experience.
And they contradict each other.
And
a lot of the information.
It's very determined by you and your baby. It's whatever, and this is one of the things that I've really learned in this pregnancy. You can opt for, in my opinion anyway, it's again my personal opinion, pregnancy and birth itself is going to be determined by you and how the baby is going to be coming out, quite frankly. And so the whole, like, I've been, they tell you like, okay, so these are some of the optimal birthing positions that you want to be doing. Okay, great.
Thank you
For the education. I can try to opt for this, but if the baby is going to come out in whatever way that they're going to come out, then they're going to come out that way. You know, like the birthing position may or may not make a difference to you. The baby's going to come out the way it's going to come out. So it's been very eye-opening. And I think that the more I've learned about it, the more I've come to comprehend what it actually entails. And it has allowed me to make more educational decisions based on it. It is horribly terrifying at the beginning because you're overwhelmed with the fact that, okay, well, I am now bearing the responsibility of making sure that I have this baby stay alive for the next 9 months inside of me, and then deliver it and then keep it alive for the next life that it's going to have. It's a very different experience than what people really portray it as.
Yeah.
I think it's not for everyone. And I think it's for certain individuals. Who those certain individuals are, that's up to you to determine.
Yeah.
Because you might feel like you're going to be a great mom. And I think a lot of people want to be that. And then sometimes that's not really the case.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, like, you want your kids to be good people. You want your kids to come out as good human beings with good moral codes and compasses, and hopefully not become another Ted Bundy, you know? It's a heavy role to take on. And it takes time for you to get there. And I don't think that you being that at such a young age, like some of our previous generations had to become, was fair.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
No, like my mom was married off at 15.
Okay.
And had my brother at 18, had me at 21.
Wow.
Yeah, my mom is young. And I can't imagine being less than 30 with with her. Then Aziz, she had him 8-9 years after that. So I can't imagine being 30 with 3 kids. Like, no, I can have 2 cats. I can deal with 2 cats. More than that, I can't. Yeah, I think it was, but also was a different world. Completely different world than what it is right now.
It is very much a different world. That's why I'm saying that, like, again, like back in the day, you know, the society was very different.
Like
life was very different.
Yeah. My aunt kind of shamed her own daughter, saying, I don't get it. So my cousins and I are the first women to work in our family.
Respect.
To have, so you have university degrees and to work. So this cousin I'm talking about, she's older than me. She's 40 now. She has 2 kids. And she moved to Dubai and works with her husband here. And you know how it is in Dubai. You need to have a double income. It's really hard to not be a double income family. And she lives with this immense guilt towards never having enough time. It's always guilt between work and family. It's always like, there's so much guilt that I've seen. And then her mom was talking to me. She's my aunt. And she's telling me, I don't get it. Like when I was her age, it was so easy for me. I don't get it. I was like, Khalto, you never worked. You were at home and you were younger, because she also had them in her early 20s. She had 3 kids. قالت لي صح معك حق. Like حتى
like
their experience is not even applicable anymore.
Yeah, no, but it's like it's very much of an apple-orange comparison.
ما فيك, you can't even think about it that way. وكمان لبنان ودبي فرق كتير حياة تاني completely. Like it was so interesting that her own mom was doing that.
So
that couldn't be understanding.
So I grew up with a working mom, and it's a hustle.
It
is a hustle. It's a flex. It's a trophy. It is like, wow.
Yeah.
And I was the only girl in the group of girls that I used to be friends with in high school that was a daughter to a working mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So very different life and engagement with your mother. I remember I was having this conversation just around the time that I had posted my comments on my Instagram story. I was engaging with someone who I'm close to on a personal level, and they come from Eastern Europe. I'm not going to specify the country. And she actually shared her own experience, but she lives here. She resides here, and she's having baby number 2 very soon. I think by the time this podcast episode comes out, she's already going to have the baby. But she's a mom of 2. And, she's a stay-at-home mom, also a flex, also a full-time job. And she only just recently brought in help. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Only recently. Like her first baby was all on her own. Like she was a Martha Stewart queen.
That's hard alone.
And that's a handful.
Yeah.
And she is like, she's she's a quite hands-on mom. She's really fantastic with her first. But she was sharing with me that if back home she had this scenario where she had help or where she was putting her first in nursery, they would actually belittle her and judge her.
That's so
because
sad.
that's what I'm saying. That's the context that I'm putting that in. That like you're supposed to be raw about motherhood.
Yeah, why?
You're supposed to destroy your body.
But you should get all the
like
help.
completely destroy it and that, like completely like make like no. There should be nothing about you that's beautiful or sexy anymore after having kids, and really like slave it out for your children. I'm like.
Why? No, I don't believe in
Why?
that. I don't believe in that.
Like you still like just because you take on the role of a mom doesn't mean you start losing all the
You
other
lose
roles that you
yourself.
used to have.
You shouldn't lose yourself into that.
Yeah, and it's so sad, but that's what I'm saying, that it's like it's within the mom community,
Yeah, no,
like
that's-
that they do that to each other.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's one of my fears actually. Of if I ever become a mom, that's one of my fears, because I saw how my mom lost herself and her identity to us. I don't think that's healthy, and it's not healthy right now. We don't have a good relationship.
It's not.
And it's not healthy, and I don't believe anyone. أنا ضد اثنين، ضد تقديس الأهل وتقديس الأولاد. You know, no. كل واحد له their own value and respect and space. Don't lose yourself into each other.
I mean, I've gone as far as already thinking about, my little one and how my little one is gonna eventually have their own life and how they're gonna become their own person. And how they're going to have their own life challenges. And, at the end of the day, you're not always going to also like your life also has a timeline.
Yeah.
You're not going to be with them when they're going to be 80. Like your life will end at a certain point. So they also will have their own life at the end of the day. So the whole of like تقديس الأولاد also, I do truly believe in that. Luckily, I've had few women in my life who remind me because of the way that they made their choices in life, that just because you have kids doesn't mean that your life ends.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, some of the conversations that I've had since being pregnant, I've had it with women who've reminded me of that.
That's good.
And it's been amazing. And I'm like, okay, this is the kind of conversations I have, because these are the kind of like-minded thoughts that I'm having at the moment. Because they, like some other moms have made it seem like their entire lives have ended and that they're no longer women, they're no longer wives, they're no longer partners to a husband. They've just become this factory that
hard.
just brings babies.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that if sometimes your immediate surrounding or even your partner themselves make you feel that way, because it's not fair and it's not right. But at the same time, life isn't that or that. So it's just, I feel that there should be more open conversations about how actually judgmental this particular group is, or this particular role is, and what it comes with when it comes to the level of challenges that you're going to face, the level of reality that you're going to have to deal with, the level of things that you're going to deal with in terms of changing, like from your physical aspect, your emotional aspect, your relationship with everybody around you. Even so, that's so much that you're end up gonna actually break some ties with some friends because you don't feel like they align with you anymore with this new role. And it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just that it's a part of who you used to be that no longer is.
Yeah.
And the whole conversation about snapping back.
No.
Let's go back to the old body. You're never going to have the same body.
Yeah.
Like your whole personality changes. Your whole aspect of life changes. And your body changes with it. So it is like, as someone who also specializes in change management on a corporate level, I'm going to tell you, you need probably 100 sessions of change management to maybe take on the level of changes that you're going to go through.
Well, I was going to ask you what's your message, but you wrapped it up very well. Tamara, thank you for choosing Budun Sukar to be that platform about this, because we don't have enough honest mom-to-bees or mothers to talk about this situation. It's unfortunate that you had to go through it yourself, but it's part of the journey to go through all these people.
May I just highlight that my motherhood to be experience has not been bitter at all. It's just more about the fact that I feel that more honesty and more open conversations should be held about the journey itself.
And this is why we're in Bidun Sukar.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us today.
My
And
pleasure.
thank you for always being honest with us. And good luck.
Thank you.